The Code of Hammurabi, Babylon circa 1750 BCE, carved onto a basalt stele and displayed in Babylon nearly 4,000 years ago, represents the first surviving attempt at a comprehensive, publicly visible legal system. Hammurabi ruled a kingdom that had absorbed rival cities and diverse populations. To govern effectively, he standardized rules into nearly 300 laws written in cuneiform Akkadian. The laws address property rights, contracts, wages, family disputes, and crimes. They were not abstract principles but specific case rulings. If one person builds a house and it collapses, killing the owner, the builder is put to death. If it kills the owner's son, the builder's son is executed in return. This illustrates the guiding principle of lex talionis, or retaliation in kind, though penalties varied by social class. Nobles, commoners, and slaves were treated differently under the same law. The code also demonstrates early protections for weaker groups. It limited debt slavery to 3 years, set wages for workers, and punished judges who issued corrupt decisions. Though Hammurabi's empire collapsed, the idea of codified written law survived. His stele demonstrates a key shift. Justice became something fixed in text, not just the decision of rulers or elders. The 12 Tables of Rome circa 450 BCE. In the early Roman Republic, law was controlled by patrician elites and enforced through custom rather than open statutes. Plebeians, ordinary citizens, demanded written laws to prevent arbitrary judgments. The result was the 12 Tables, inscribed on bronze tablets and displayed in the Roman Forum around 450 BCE. The 12 Tables covered civil, criminal, and procedural matters. They established rights of property, inheritance, contracts, and legal redress. While harsh by modern standards, the key innovation was transparency. All citizens, not just elites, could see what the law required. The tables made law public, ensuring all citizens knew the rules. This transparency was revolutionary. Over time, they became the foundation for Roman jurisprudence, which influenced European legal systems long after Rome's fall. By separating law from custom and religion, Rome created a distinct legal tradition that still echoes in modern civil law. Magna Carta, England, 1215. By the early 13th century, England's King John faced rebellion from barons frustrated with heavy taxation and arbitrary royal authority. In 1215, at Runnymede, John was compelled to seal Magna Carta, the Great Charter. While originally a peace treaty between king and nobles, it became one of the most significant legal documents in history. Although Magna Carta was annulled soon after, reissued in later reigns and originally applied only to free men, not peasants or serfs, its symbolic power grew over centuries. It was cited in struggles between Parliament and monarchy in the English Civil War, and later by American colonists asserting their rights. Magna Carta thus transformed from a baronial contract into a universal principle. Government must operate under law, and individuals possess rights that rulers cannot arbitrarily remove. The Habeas Corpus Act, England, 1679. Centuries after Magna Carta, the English Parliament passed the Habeas Corpus Act of 1679. Habeas corpus, Latin for "you shall have the body," is the principle that no one can be detained without being brought promptly before a court to test the legality of their imprisonment. It required jailers to present detainees quickly, prevented authorities from moving prisoners to evade oversight, and imposed fines on officials who ignored court orders. This law emerged from struggles between monarchy and parliament during the 17th century. Kings had sometimes imprisoned political opponents without trial. The Habeas Corpus Act placed a concrete limit on executive power by making arbitrary detention illegal. Its impact extended globally. Habeas corpus became a cornerstone of English common law, later entrenched in the U.S. Constitution and other democratic systems. Even in modern debates over national security, terrorism, or wartime powers, habeas corpus remains a critical safeguard balancing state authority and individual liberty. The U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, 1787 to 1791. In the aftermath of independence from Britain, the United States replaced its weak Articles of Confederation with a new constitution in 1787. This document created a federal government divided into executive, legislative, and judicial branches, with checks and balances to prevent concentration of power. Ratified in 1789, it remains the longest continuously used written constitution in the world. The first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights, 1791, secured fundamental liberties: freedom of speech, press, and religion, the right to bear arms, protection against unreasonable searches, rights of due process and fair trial, and safeguards against cruel punishments. These provisions drew from English precedents but enshrined them in a written, supreme law. The Constitution and Bill of Rights influenced constitutional design worldwide, inspiring revolutions in France, Latin America, and later democratic movements across the globe. Together, they represent one of the clearest examples of law reshaping political reality by creating a durable framework of rights and government accountability. The Napoleonic Code, France, 1804. After the French Revolution, France needed legal unity. Napoleon Bonaparte introduced the Civil Code of 1804, known as the Napoleonic Code. It abolished feudal privileges, standardized contracts and property rights, and declared all male citizens equal before the law. The code reorganized law into a clear, rational system based on principles of equality before the law, secular authority, and protection of private property. It abolished feudal privileges, confirmed civil marriage and divorce, and standardized contracts and inheritance rules. The code spread far beyond France, influenced legal systems in Italy, Spain, Latin America, parts of Africa, and even modern Japan. Civil law traditions today, practiced in much of the world, trace key features to the Napoleonic model. By rationalizing and unifying law under a modern state, the Napoleonic Code stands as one of the most influential legal frameworks in history. The Civil Rights Act, United States, 1964. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a landmark in the struggle against racial segregation and discrimination in the United States. Passed during the Civil Rights Movement, it responded to decades of systemic inequality that persisted despite earlier constitutional amendments.
The act prohibited discrimination in public accommodations, employment, and federally funded programs based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Title II outlawed segregation in hotels, restaurants, and theaters. Title VII banned employment discrimination and created the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to enforce workplace rights.
This law marked a decisive use of federal authority to override discriminatory practices in states, especially in the segregated South. It was championed by civil rights leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. and signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson after intense political struggle. The Civil Rights Act not only reshaped American society, but also influenced global human rights discourse. It demonstrated how law could be a tool to dismantle entrenched systems of inequality, setting a precedent for later protections of gender, disability, and sexual orientation.